Welcome to the longest running poker space. I'm your host, Sherry Pluskota, and I'm happy you're joining me this evening, either live or listening at a future time. Of course, Friday night, everybody's in a fury with school coming back and all that stuff. So folks will be coming in and out as the evening goes on. No big surprise here in Spaces. Many thanks to my sponsor, Elevator Results. If you need a tailor-made workout plan, to help you lose weight or to gain weight, Elevator Results can help design that plan. Follow them on Twitter and check out their site at elevatorresultspt.com. Also, be reminded you can find the recordings of my past spaces as well as the interviews that I did at the poker.org mobile studio on my YouTube channel at Sherry Pluskota 9212. Now, let me introduce our guest tonight. I'm so excited. Tom and I have been trying to make this work out timing wise for a few months now. So I'm excited we finally got it nailed down, so to speak. Tom was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and presently resides in Phoenix. He is or was a public accountant, a songwriter, an author, an avid golfer, and once was the president of a public golf company before embarking on his professional poker career. Many will remember Tom for the flashy sports coats he adorned well on the felt, while others will remember the run he made during the 2007 World Series, which crowned him the Player of the Year. That year, he won his first of two bracelets for winning the Omaha High Low 8 or better. And the second bracelet was for winning the 7-card stud high low tournament. He also finished fourth place in the $2,500 horse event that year, and well deserved named the Player of the Year. Tom has over 2.4 million in total live earnings on his Hendon Mob, with his best live cash of over 318,000 for his first place finish and his fourth bracelet win of the 2013 $5,000 horse event, and not to ignore that third bracelet win, which was a $1,500 horse event. At one point, my guest co-hosted the Beyond the Table podcast and was the head blogger over at Pokerati as a contributing columnist. Nowadays, he spends his time with his family and out and about Phoenix at gigs playing his guitar. Please welcome 2007 Player of the Year, Tom Schneider.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you. It's been a while since we've chatted. Tom would, come visit us in my Flophouse radio days, and he would interview with us, and he would play his guitar for us. Back then, we would do it in Zoom, so it was such a delight. And we decided tonight probably wouldn't be a good way for him to do that for us, just because of technology we're using. And it makes me sad, Tom. I was looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie.
You never know. We could try it out. I haven't tried playing guitar on this forum, so we could give it a try.
Well, and guess what? I don't mind experimenting at all, and it always brings us future knowledge. So I'm game if you're game.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what. Let's get the boring questions out of the way first. So, like, how did you get started in poker?
So I played a lot of my parents had a lot of friends over. They would drink and play gambling games, usually for small amounts of money for them, but large amounts of money for me when I was 7, 8, and 9 years old. And instead of going and playing with the other kids, I wanted to sit in there with the adults. And first of all, I liked the jokes that they would tell, and they probably weren't appropriate for me to hear. But and then I also like the idea of playing cards and games and winning money off of drunk old people.
I love it. I love it. And jokes. Do I remember reading something that you took a little stab at um, comedy, and you did some comedy work?
I did. I actually started with my daughter, who was very funny, got her into improv comedy, took some improv classes with her, and then I took a stand-up comedy class with her, and the culmination of the class was getting on stage. All the people that were in the class got on stage, and it was a full house at the Tempe Improv. And so I did that, and then I did a couple more shows, and then more recently, like in the last 4 or 5 years, I did a couple of shows as well. It takes a lot of work to write jokes and to craft them into funny things, and I just don't have time. But I really enjoy doing it.
Well, that's so awesome, and I'm sure it's even more complicated these days because everybody's feelings get hurt so easily.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a lot of jokes about my daughters. I had full custody of them since they were like 9 and 11, and so I had a lot of jokes about them and just raising two daughters and kind of what that was like.
Well, I'm sure it was a fun time to see you up on stage because I have witnessed your music and you're very entertaining. Um, honestly, I've started watching some videos, just to do some research, and when I have a guest, I got to kind of stalk them for a little bit until I can come up with some questions and whatever. And I go back and watch some of your film on the poker felt, of course, and what a charisma. You have such charisma at the poker table, and the men of today's poker world can learn a lot um about the do's and don'ts on the felt, like as in your moral compass and the way you treat other people at the table. And you're just there for fun and nothing mean spirited. And so many can learn from that these days.
That's very nice of you. I think it's partly, it's partly kind of who I am, but then it's also partly the job of a professional poker player to make the table a fun place to be for people who are going to lose. I look at them as, as people first, but then as customers second, right? And if your customers are having a bad time, they won't keep coming back. I've lost people have lost to me, and they say I don't mind losing to you, which is probably the best compliment you can get is to where they have fun losing money to you. And that's I think that's a little bit lost these days because of the headphones and the lack of
Yes.
conversation and all that.
I could not agree more. And it always is amazing to me when people will say to me, "Well, how did your, session go?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was amazing." And of course, their next, question is, "Well, how much did you cash out?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I got my ass kicked, but we had a great time."
Right,
And
right.
that's exactly what I want, whether I'm winning or losing. I want that same experience. Like I want to leave there happy that I had a great session, and the money is not what it is for me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's nice to win, but you can still have fun when you're losing.
You can. I mean, it's not as much fun for sure, but
Yeah,
it's a social game, and to sit there and literally grind and tell people they play terribly or that type of thing. Obviously, it means that a professional would never say that to someone who's a bad player because they don't first of all they don't want to educate, and second of all they
exactly.
don't.
Don't tap the glass.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand the idea of educating your opponents, but that seems to be the way of the future or the way it's going now.
Well, and it is amazing. There's this one player that comes to mind, and every time she's at a table, and she even does it like on live feed tables, like she's correcting the people, and you're almost yelling at the TV screen, like, "Shut up!"
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I don't understand it. No one in business does that. No one goes to their competitor down the street and said, "Hey, you do a lot better if you change your signage and hired this lady that's working for me." No one does
right?
that. It's just a weird thing. I think it's an ego thing in poker where, I kind of enjoy looking like the idiot at the table. I mean, that's kind of uh, I don't mind that. I don't. And that's one thing like Daniel does. That's really good. It's also really bad is that he educates a lot of people, but he lets people into what he's thinking, which I never do. And I
Right,
think there's a lot of good players that think the same way, but they just don't verbalize it like he does, and
right.
I think is why he's so popular. But it's also not a strategy that I use when I'm at the table. I'd rather talk about something funny.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you. After a session or after a tournament, somebody busts out, I will walk up to them and say, "Hey, you know, can we talk about a couple of things? Would you be offended?" And if they say, "I'd rather not," no problem. You know what I mean? Especially if I know, like, if it's a brand new player, I will try to help them afterwards, but never during.
Right.
Never
Yeah.
during.
Yeah, and I think that's okay, especially if it's not somebody you're playing with every day.
Right.
If you're playing with somebody every day, it's pretty tough to go up and tell them, "I think you're doing this wrong."
Right. And
Uh,
I would never do that ever.
yeah,
But I think you also touched on something I believe in too, that it is an ego trip when people are trying to puff up that they have the, the insight, so to speak. And I think a prime example of that is when somebody says they have a set and it's trips, or they have trips and it's a set. And there's always somebody at the table that has to say, oh, that's not a set, that's
Yeah.
trips, or that's not trips, that's a set. Like,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah. I was playing with this guy who's, purportedly super smart, and he's telling people why he's folding hands. And, one perfect example is he had three kings in high-low regular, which is also called any, which basically means no qualifier. And he showed his three kings when someone bet, and he folded three kings, and there were people at the table that didn't know that you should fold three kings because you're really getting free rolled for the whole for the whole pot, and in that game. And now he just informed the whole table that didn't know that game. And at that time, that game was pretty good because a lot of people would start with two kings in that game, thinking that was good. He
Right,
just folds three kings face up, and some people at the table are going like, what's he doing? Right? Well,
right.
good. Well done, sir. You know?
You let out the secret.
Right. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
let out the secret. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us how you got the nickname Donkey Bomber.
So I was my first WPT table. I really wasn't playing any tournaments, and I played fairly high stakes cash games, 4 and 800 mix, and sometimes 1,000, 2,000, sometimes 1,500, 3,000. So some of the people I was playing with, who I didn't think were very good players, were winning tournaments. So I decided to go to Reno and play in the Reno WPT, and there was a guy named Arnold Spee who had won it the previous year. He'd won $1 million and won that same event the previous year, and he happened to be at my table. And he was riding me really hard, which I don't mind. But the other players at the table were really bothered by the way he was treating me. He would call me a donkey. He called me a donkey like 10 times. I ended up busting him out on that tournament, but he told me how bad I
Nice.
played. He said, "You're such an idiot. You're such a donkey. You're a
Oh,
donkey," over and over and over. And and if a couple of funny stories, because I really don't. I like act completely oblivious to these types of things. And he said, you probably got in through a satellite. And I said, yeah, I did, which I hadn't. I paid 5,000 to get in. And he said, you're probably not going to make it to dinner break. And I said, I hope not, because I'm really hungry. And you know,
yes.
so
Yes.
he just really was ridiculing me, and I just happened to just torture him the whole time, um, and knocked him out. And anyway, even one of the couple of the players called the floorman over and said, "Hey, this guy's really being a jerk to me, right?" And I didn't
Right,
I didn't call the floor over because I didn't really care. I actually, if other people are being jerked to me, it doesn't bother me. Uh,
right,
and I actually kind of just play into the I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing kind of a thing. And so anyway, I make the final table of that event, and they have you put down your nickname. What's your favorite dessert, or all these things, and what's your
right.
nickname? And I said, I don't have one, but according to Arnold Spee, my nickname should be Donkey. And so they're getting on there, and I'm bald, so I'm always cold. So I have a hoodie on, and I never wear sunglasses, but that time I decided to wear sunglasses, and what the guy, not Mike, but the
Phil
other guy.
Lack.
No, the other guy that's the announcer, the tennis. He was a tennis player.
Oh,
You know who I'm thinking of, not Mike Sexton, but the other guy. I
oh,
can't.
with the long hair. I
Yeah,
can't get my mind just blank.
yeah. This is a while ago, but
I
a
can't
good
think of
guy.
his name.
Yeah, good guy.
That's
I'll
all
think
right.
of it. His
Yes, he's
his
great.
dad was on full. Some eight is enough. I can't think of his name. Anyway, so he says, he's like a donkey. He's like a Unabomber wannabe. Yeah, it says here he's the donkey. Maybe he's just a donkey bomber. So that's how it came out. And then people started calling me that. So I went with that for my Twitter handle.
I love it. And ASG, if you don't get up here and tell us the name of the guy we're trying to think of, I'll be highly disappointed because I know ASG knows that information. Uh,
Yeah, I know who it is. I mean, I just can't think
I
of.
can't think of
He's
his
a great
name.
guy. He was with Mike Sexton, for I don't know. Maybe he still is. I don't know. But he was.
Well,
He's good.
he is with Tony Dunst now. They do the because of course the great Mike Sexton has passed away.
Right.
So ASG, welcome. Meet Tom and
I have,
tell us who
yeah.
we're talking
Hello.
about.
I don't know, but I
Oh
know Tony Dunst plays tennis.
Yep,
no, no. It's.
it's the other guy. Oh my gosh.
I will find it out.
I can't Google while I'm hosting because I could
Yeah.
possibly end a space by accident. So anyway, oh, I could see him as clear as day. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
can. I will get it right now. I will get it because it's bothering me.
what is
Uh,
his name?
I'll get it. Vince
It's
Van Patten.
Vince Van Patten. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
You guys, everybody in this audience knows that name. Come on.
yeah. So I got it from Vince Van Patten. He thought he was trying to be the Unabomber, but I was really the Donkey Bomber.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, so do you play much poker these days?
So I do around Phoenix. I play once in a while. I'm really pretty busy with what I'm doing with work and also with music. So I'm very particular about going out when I feel like it's a good time. I'm
Sure.
rested and not spent from working all day or that type of thing. So I'll probably play 3 to 4 times a month. So
Awesome.
nothing too much, and then I've been going up to the World Series and playing, maybe 8 events or something like that, playing some cash games up there, and have not had a good series the last couple of World Series.
Well, hopefully that'll change
Yeah.
soon.
It's. I feel like the play has elevated quite a bit
Right.
at the series and also in cash games. What people call a good game now, they would have called it a terrible game 15 years ago.
Interesting. In what regards?
Meaning, people will say it's a good game. We got this guy, this guy, this guy in the game, and it's like, yeah, that guy, yeah. Compared to other people, he's not as good. But compared to what I used to think was a good game, we had people that had no chance of winning, and the people that play in that higher stakes games, higher stakes here is 75, 150, 100, 200, 200, 400. Those people, there aren't a whole lot of people in there that have no chance. There used to be people that have no chance. I mean,
Right.
when I played back, when I was starting to play higher, there were just some people that had no chance, but they would lose 20, 30,000 a night and just have the time of their lives. And but they didn't have a chance to win. They hardly ever cashed out a winner. And I won 17 times in a row one time at like
Wow.
300, 600, and that's hard to do. You can't do that nowadays.
Wow.
It's
No,
it's,
you can't.
it's
No, you
impossible.
cannot.
So, and that's because the level of play has gotten so much better.
So, do you play mostly mixed? Do you play any no limit at all or
So I'm a mixed game player, and in some of the mixes we have some cat pot games like Big O and maybe double board, and those are cap pots. So like if I play 75 150, they'll be capped at 1500. But I used to play a lot of PLO. Back in the day, we'd go to Tunica, Mississippi and play a lot of PLO, and I played no limit tournaments quite a bit, and I have fallen out of love with no limit hold'em just because the tanking has gotten out of hand, and I don't know. It's a different game. Sitting at a mixed game and sitting at a no limit hold'em game, it's a different feel. The mixed
right?
game, everybody kind of knows each other, and they're talking about all sorts of things and joking around and saying funny things, and it's you're not your whole stack isn't at risk, so you're gonna lose a bet, and you're not gonna be super upset and storm off the table. So I just a different game. I tend to like mix a lot better. I like mixes with, there was a mixed game at the Resorts World 2 World Series ago that was amazing. It was a 19 game mix, and I loved that. That was probably one of my favorite. It was 8160 with some cat pot games in it, but I just enjoyed the mix so much that
Well, I've challenged myself to learn Raz this year.
that's
And
the
so
best one to learn. I mean,
that is my goal this year by next summer.
start with low cards. That's it.
Start with
Start with
start
low
with
cards. I mean, if I had to pick a game to say, hey, let's get you a bracelet. You've never played poker before. I would pick Raz
Oh, interesting.
because Raz is the simplest game to explain to someone who doesn't play poker, and you can explain the fundamentals of that game a lot. There's fewer nuances. There are some nuances in the game where
Right.
people don't understand. Where they might have let's say they have a 9-8 made in on Fifth Street, and your opponent has a king but has a 4 and a 6 up, um, and they have an ace and a deuce in the hole. Even though you have the best hand made, you're not the favorite. And so that's one nuance where people don't understand in Raz, where even though you have a better hand made than they could possibly have, you might be in a bad spot, and they might be able to lock you out on the next card where you literally, and then you have to play the whole hand because you think they might have paired. So, but in Raz, that's the game I would try to teach a novice to play to win a World Series bracelet.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
I picked a good one. Well, we'll see how this works out.
yeah, yeah. You have a good shot.
Well, thank you. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and that's just a challenge to myself. So we'll see if I can get it accomplished or not. I mentioned that you're known for your flashy suit coats, but it really was flashy clothing because you also had some pretty psychedelic, so to speak, trousers to wear. So, how did that all come about?
So I was watching John Daly play in a golf tournament, and I don't know, I like the kind of wildness of his clothes, and so I called up the CEO of Loudmouth Golf and said I'd like to represent the brand in poker. And he said, "That's interesting. We don't really know if that's going to work or if that's going to create any, it's probably not our demographic," which I think
Right.
it turned out not to be the demographic. But I did get some notoriety, or give them some notoriety, and I got some myself for wearing it. So I ended up in talking to him. I talked to him about his financial situation at the company, and he said, "Why would you ask that? You're a poker player." I said, "Well, actually, I was a chief financial officer for several companies." And he goes, "Wow, why don't you? I'll send them. You take a look." So anyway, ended up being like a brand ambassador and their fractional chief financial officer. So I worked for the company and wore their stuff on TV.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
You never know what that one phone call could get you, do you?
No, you don't. It was really fascinating that, and he and I are friends to this day. I talk to him quite a bit. So we play in golf tournaments together, and he's a very fun guy, and that whole brand was very fun.
I love it. Well, just as a fan, so to speak, who didn't want to tune in to see what Tom Schneider was wearing? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, who didn't want to tune in? A little bit ago, you mentioned about the stalling and in the no limit game, and of course, bird's eye view into that world of stalling. This WSOP. So, what did you think about all that stalling and clock calling this year at that WSOP?
If you're referring about, is it Kasuf, the guy that was?
Kasuf and Cabral, both.
Yeah. So I didn't see the Cabral stuff. I didn't watch it all. I watched mostly the highlights of Kasuf because as much, so my thing is a couple of things on the stalling. I think it ruins the game. It ruins the
Yes.
game. And I sat down. I played a shootout, right? I played a shootout and won my first table, and then I got to the table. This is I don't know, 8 years ago maybe. I got to the table, the next table the next day, because a shootout is where you win your table and then you advance and then you go to
Right.
another table, and so I got to the table the next day. I got there like a minute or two late. I missed one hand. And there were already 10 people at the table, and I'm like, "You guys mind if you just scoot over a little bit?" And of course, they moved like a half an inch, and so now I'm like way back, and I'm at a table with a guy named Doc Sands, who I think notoriously was probably the worst at slow play. He took 3 minutes for every decision, and he would take 15 to 30 seconds to look at his hand.
Oh God.
To look at his hand, like he was.
Shoot me now.
Yeah, when it was his turn, he would literally have his arms folded over his chest and wait and think before he went and looked at his cards. And he would act like move like a sloth to get his cards and to look at them. And
Oh
he'd look
wow.
at them for exactly the same amount. And I'm like, I didn't say this, but I came up with this rule after that. If I'm ever at a table like that, I'm going to suggest that everybody takes 3 minutes to play their hand. And so that means that we'll see a flop in a half an hour.
Oh my God.
And no, but at some point, if the guy's a better
True.
player, he'll get the point and go, "Well, this isn't good for me, right? Because now
Right.
the blinds and levels are going to be going up, and I won't be able to play more than 2 hands an hour." But
Right.
I would have done it because I'm just like I was so irritated, and I normally don't get tilted, but I was very tilted by that because first of all I didn't have a seat at the table, kind of. And
Right.
second of all, I'm watching a guy take 3 minutes to fold deuce seven, and I couldn't take it. And but I came up with a rule that I'm going to tell the whole table to take 3 minutes to do their hand, so that this guy who thinks he's a better player than everybody else won't see literally we'll see a flop in 30 minutes.
Right. It's
And
so bad for the game.
it's terrible. And you think about
So
somebody
bad.
who comes out and plays one event a year. They come out from Nebraska. Their wife lets them out of the house, and this is what they got to deal with. Is a guy like Kasuf, who's brutal at the table. And if being an ass is your strategy, it's really a bad strategy. And
Horrible.
it might work short term, but for life, it's a pretty bad strategy. So anyway, that's why I got out of it, and I just don't enjoy it anymore. It's too bad
And
because I used
you're
to
not,
love going.
I'm going to tell you, you're not the only one that has said that to me. There have been others before you that are like, I just don't enjoy No Limit anymore. I cannot take the glasses, the hoodies, the ear muffs, and 5 minutes to make a decision per hand. I
Yeah,
mean,
and you don't see that in mixed games. You don't see people wearing sunglasses. I mean, you
right,
might once in a while, but you don't see people with too many earbuds. Sometimes you do, but they're still part of the game, and they're still and it's just less. It's just less. Like I play poker as a release a little bit too. I want to get away
right.
from the rest of what I do and hang out with people that I enjoy. And if I don't enjoy being there, then I probably won't win either. I do better when I'm having a good time.
I do too, and that's winning or losing. I'm just going to tell you, some of the best times at a poker table I've had, I've been a loser at it, and it was just a fantastic table with fantastic people. And guess what? You're going to win. That you're going to win. You're going to lose. That day I was just a loser, you
Right.
know, and
Right.
I'm okay. Like
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world.
It's not. It's
It's
not. But people tend to act like it's the end of the world. But the sun will come up tomorrow.
amen.
I had a really bad trip at the World Series. I won only one time in cash games and didn't cash in a tournament that I played this year, and it's pretty depressing because I'm usually the prior year I had done really well in cash games. I didn't
Right.
do anything in tournaments, but to lose it both is pretty depressing. But you come back and everything's going to be fine.
You regroup.
Yeah, you regroup.
You
Yep.
regroup,
Yeah.
come up with a different plan, and you go back at it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, now thinking over your poker career, are there any hands that just remain in the old cobwebs as some favorites or memorable?
Yeah, I have a few of those. Um, I had. It's kind of funny. I had come in 36th in the main event uh, way back when there was like 800 players in it. I
Right,
cashed for 30,000. I went over to the Bellagio and got into a 400-800 PLO game. Very big game.
right.
And this is really big back then. And so I'd lost that. I'd lost my money. I went over and borrowed 40,000 from a friend, and then I got on a bit of a hot streak. And one of my two favorite hands in a row, kind of that would stick with me, is I had Queen Jack 10 double suited in PLO, and ended up with $50,000 in the middle, and the flop was Queen 9 deuce with two to my suit. And on the flop, we end up with 50,000 with Sammy Farha. And
Wow.
and Sammy says, "You want to take some money back?" And I said, "Well, I can't imagine. I can't imagine why. What do you have?" And he goes, "No, that's all right. Just go ahead and run it," because he knew he didn't want to show me his hand. He just had the same straight draw I had. That's it. And so I flopped top set with a straight draw and a flush draw, and he flopped the same straight draw I had. So anyway, I won that, and I was had about 100 or 125,000 in front of me at that time.
Nice.
And then the very next hand, um, I'm a big believer in playing rushes, and I know that all the pros think that's stupid, but I'm a big believer in playing rushes. My next hand I had ace 7 5 3, and I knew that. So it went like somebody made it. It was 4 and 800. Somebody made it 2,400, 2,400 call, 2,400 call, and then somehow it got to like 24,000 pre-flop, and I'm like, I can't call it with ace 7 5 3 with one suit, one suited, because I know the one guy that made it 24,000 has two aces, so my ace is dead. And I'm going, but man, I'm on a bit of a rush, and I didn't call. Sammy Farhall calls. They both have 24,000 in the middle. All the other guys folded. They're 2,400. So there's probably I don't know, 50, 60,000 in the pot. And then the flop is 3, 4, 6. So I flopped the nuts. I didn't play it. I folded it.
Right.
But I flopped the nuts. The guy with aces moves in, bets a pot. Sammy moves all in with a pair. He had like a pair of just 1 7, right? But he had, he knew the other guy had 2 aces. So his hand is not that bad against 2 aces. And I flopped the nuts. And the pot was 250 without my money in, without my money in there.
Right.
So it's been a $375,000 pot. And it could have changed the whole course of everything, right? You win that kind of money. Could have, they were playing 2,000, 4,000 at the time, and I might have probably jumped into that 2,000, 4,000 mixed game, and who knows. But that's one where I know it's stupid, but I still think about it going, because I'm a big rush player. I will play some pretty bad hands if I win a couple hands in a row or 3 hands in a row. I'm going to play probably pretty much anything. But that's one hand that I think about. Another hand that I think about, a couple where there's a book called Blink, and it talks about the immediate intuitive repulsion concept, where they take this relic and they bring in 10 experts and say, we want you to give us your impression within 3 seconds, whether this is real or not. And 9 out of 10 of them came back and said it's not real. And then they said, what we want you to do is we want you to study this now and give us, take as long as you need to study it. And then 9 out of 10 or some number like that came back and said, it's not real. It was one or the other. The first time I think they said it's not real, and then they studied it, and then 9 out of 10 said it is real, right? So after they had a long chance to think about it, so they had this immediate intuitive repulsion that it was not real. And so I started having these feelings where, even though I have a good hand, I had this, when a card hit, I had this immediate intuitive repulsion that's really bad for me. Whatever just happened is really bad, and I couldn't explain why. And there's a couple of examples about that, where I was playing in a hold'em tournament, a pot limit hold'em tournament. I was down to like the top 16 or something, and David Baker made a min raise under the gun, and I felt like I immediately felt really bad about it, right? But I had 2 kings, so I raised. Then this other guy raises, and David, he moved all in. The other guy, which he was all in for less money than both David and I had, and then David moved all in, and I had two kings, and I'm sitting there thinking, instead of thinking about this intuitive repulsion that I had, I'm thinking my friends are going to kill me if I say I folded 2 kings, right, pre-flop.
Oh.
And so I called, and of course the other guy had 2 kings, and David Baker had 2 aces, and I just had this feeling that my hand is no good. I just knew it. And I didn't listen to it. So then I said, okay, from now on, when I have this, I'm going to listen to this. And I was playing in the main event, and Greg Raymer was in the main event at my table, and I had 2 10s, and the flop was queen 10, like 4 or something like that. And I had raised pre-flop. He had re-raised me, and then I called with 2 10s, and the flop is queen 10 4, so I flopped middle set. I check raised him, and he re-raised me, and I just immediately knew my 2 10s were no good, and I folded middle set to him, and he said, you got to be. I showed him because I wanted to see.
Right.
So he showed me 2 queens. He goes, I can't believe you did that. But I had that immediate intuitive repulsion. I've had that a few other times where I've just listened to it now, where I like literally almost get sick to my stomach, even though I have a hand like that. So.
Well, and I have had that myself. I've actually folded a pair of kings pre-flop one time, took pre-flop raise, and I told the girl she had aces, and I literally folded my cards, and she did. She showed them to me, and she said, "How did you know?" And I said, "If I tell you that, how am I going to take your chips next time?" I mean,
Yeah, right.
why would I tell you that? But
Yeah.
I have had that before, so I get exactly what you're talking about. Of course, I don't play the amount of hands that you've played in your lifetime, but I think that most people probably could say they've had that experience. And, you mentioned D. Neggs earlier, and he is a prime example of somebody that works through the hand, is very intuitive, and, will even say the hands out loud, but he doesn't listen to himself.
Yeah.
And he'll call anyway.
Yeah. I think it's just to show that he was right. It's just kind of a weird thing. Yeah.
right?
I've
And
seen
it's
that quite
kind
a bit.
I laugh every time he does it. I'm like, why don't you listen to yourself? Like you're working it out and your gut is telling you something and yet you're ignoring it all. It's
Yeah, I believe there's a lot to that. There's a lot to listening to your gut and listening to your initial instincts, right? And because I
yes,
think, they say think long, think wrong, and I think there's a lot to that
I agree.
in life and business and poker.
I agree totally, and I'm sure our audience mostly agree with that statement as well. Is there one piece of advice you can give our audience about their poker games or just being a poker player?
Yeah, I think, like for me, um, a couple things. One is there's a couple really good apps that you can keep track of your winnings and losses. And I think that without doing that, you really don't know how you're doing. People seem to think that, when they say they're about break even, they probably are a loser. But if you have that, sometimes, I've used that and then I thought I wasn't doing very well, but then I realized, oh, I bought wood floors for my house, or I did, I was using cash, right? And you find out that you're actually doing better. A lot of times you find out you're actually doing worse, but then it tells you which games you're doing well at, and so these apps. So keep track of your results and be vigilant about it. When you sit down at the table, you start. There's a couple different apps you can start and put your buy-in down, what game you're playing, what day it is, what casino, all of that, and then that way you kind of understand where you play well, when you play well, and what games you are successful at. And I think that's really important. And then the other thing is, I think for me, it's really important in different phases of my life. I've been married a couple times and three times actually, but in different phases of your life, where if you're married, you want to have a happy wife before you go play poker. Like I can't go play poker. I'm not married now, but I can't go play poker if I have some things that I promised somebody that I do, or if I know that I'm supposed to be somewhere in a short period of time, or that my wife or my whatever is not happy right now because they'd rather do something with me. I just would prefer not to go play because it's a recipe for disaster for me. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, it's a disaster if I don't go out when I'm in the right spot, headspace wise.
I agree. And they say happy wife, happy life, right?
Right.
And guess what? You don't want that black cloud of oh, I didn't do this or oh, I needed to do that or oh, she was upset with me because I didn't get to that or you don't need that going into your poker game.
It's hard, like, especially if you have a conscience. It's really hard, and then you go lose and you've got a mad wife and you had some things that you should have gotten done that you didn't do. It's like a really it's just a it's a and you wasted your time, right? So it's like for me, I have to give myself the best chance to win, especially nowadays where I think poker's a lot tougher and the players aren't as bad. You have to be better than everybody else, at least when you walk in the door.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Okay, so all right. I want to start this conversation with everybody knows that the grinder is, worthy of being in the Poker Hall of Fame. So this conversation is not about the grinder. He is more than deserving about being in the Poker Hall of Fame. But I want to bring up the fact that the whole process of getting him inducted into the Hall of Fame was bypassed. He wasn't even a nominee this year. What do you think of that? The way that took place.
Yeah, I think if you have a process, you should use the process. It probably, if you have a process and you skip the process, then you probably, it kind of makes the whole thing less valuable to me,
Right.
because you're skipping a process that you use for everybody, but now you're making exceptions. I'm not a fan of that, and I agree with you. What he's done something that is unbelievable.
Right.
He's
More than deserving. But there
Yeah.
were actually 10 other nominees this year. And, one of them got inducted and he was deserving as well. And,
Who was that?
who got inducted? It was um oh my God, he had the picture with the cigar. Nick
Nick
Schulman.
Schulman.
Nick Schulman.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
SG. Yeah, Nick Schulman got inducted, through the process. And for me,
Right.
like, how can we trust the process now? For a couple of years now, I've been very boisterous saying that some of those rules need to be changed. What do you think about there only being one inductee per year? Do you think that should be, the route, or should we do more per year?
Yeah, I think one seems pretty low for as many poker players as there are, and um, yeah, it seems pretty low, and it's nice that they have a high bar, right? But there's been a lot of people that have added to the game that probably, if you look at baseball, I don't know how many people are inducted into a baseball Hall of Fame
Yeah,
each year, but or football or any of that. But it seems like it's pretty small when you look at. We all put up our own money, or at least most of us do, and we don't have. It's kind of the only thing you can get really out of. I mean, there's a lot of other things like if you're a major league baseball player, or where you're getting money for playing,
right.
and maybe they should loosen up those things a little bit. I mean, hell, they've added 100 World Series of Poker games now, so
Right,
might as well.
bracelets, like
Yeah, 100.
events.
There's like so many bracelets now. It's kind of. I think they've devalued the WSOP brand, at least a bracelet, maybe not the brand, but the bracelet.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, if they're going to have 100 events, there's going to be a lot more people that are probably worthy of getting into
Well,
the Hall of Fame.
and I'm going to tell you, I had to chuckle because the examples you gave are the exact examples I've been giving. Um, Over the summer, I do a daily WSOP and Vegas poker um, coverage show every morning at 9 a.m. Vegas time, and so many times we have the conversation about the Poker Hall of Fame, and I said exactly what you said. Baseball, football, there may be what 5,000 people in those leagues, and they're inducting multiple people every year. We literally have millions of people playing poker. Obviously, they're not all qualified for the Hall of Fame, but looking at the sheer numbers, we should be inducting more than one. So I just kind of chuckled when you brought up those two leagues, because that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know how many people are in, how many players are in baseball every year.
right,
But and it also takes a career to get into the Hall of Fame. It's not 1 year that will get
right.
you in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know how many players are on a team, but let's say 20, 25.
Let's say a 40-man, or sorry, I think it's a 40-man roster.
Is it really
Uh,
40? Wow.
I think so, times 30 teams. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So 1,200.
Right.
There's a lot more poker players that would
Exactly.
consider
and
themselves
then
professionals for sure.
to answer how they get into the Hall of Fame, it's the writers. They take any if you're eligible, which is after you retire a certain number of years. If you are on 75% of the ballots, the the writers choose 10 people, and if you're on 75% of the people who of the ballots, you're in. That's basically over.
Yeah.
Thank you, HG. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
There's 750. Each year, the number of active MLB players typically hovers around 750, based on 30 teams with 25-man active rosters. So, and then you probably have people drop in and out, but 750 players. So, and they induct five. I don't know how many people they induct into the Hall of Fame, but
Yeah, I know it's multiple. It's more than one.
yeah,
And
yeah,
up until 2021, we were inducting two for several years in a row. And then we went down to one. And I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that, because more of, legendary players have become eligible in those last 5 years. And, you know, it you know everybody in the spaces knows that I've been pushing for Miami John Cernuto to be inducted the last 3 years.
yeah,
And the fact that he hasn't been inducted yet is, to me, a prime example there's something wrong with the system. Because I can't think of, I mean, there are several other deserving players, but how do you deny a Miami John? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good players that
yes,
should be in there for sure. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. But I don't really know. It's not. Is it really a place? Is the Hall of Fame a place?
No,
Yeah. So I mean, that's another thing too. They might get more. They might actually get a place or have a Hall of Fame if they had more players in there, especially that people nowadays know. Like a lot of people don't know Johnny Moss and don't care about him, right? Because
right.
they never met him or had a chance to play with him. I actually played with him a couple times, but a lot of those guys, I think, were more inducted because they were characters than they were good poker players
Well,
back in
and
the
the
day.
poker was so different back then. I mean,
Yeah,
you got voted on to win the the main event at one
yeah,
point. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I wish they would do that now. That'd be fun. Just have a big vote with 10,000 people voting.
well, I'm going to tell you, they can't even get the 60 members or however members are in the Hall of Fame to go by their own rules. Could you imagine 10,000 voters? But anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously Grinder should be in there.
of course.
But yeah, I do think if you have those, you should follow them. Otherwise, they'll just keep making exceptions, and maybe one of their friends is deserving or wants to want to put them in, and you know, so
Yeah,
yeah,
you can't, like, how can the public trust the process? The players submitted names. Those names were narrowed down to nominees, and then the Hall of Famers voted on the nominees. That's the process. And how can we trust that process now when none of the nominees that all of us submitted, besides Nick Schulman, who is deserving as well, um, the other nine got bypassed for someone that wasn't even nominated. Like, how do we trust that process ever again?
right. And I think they have a lot of other rules too, like that I'm not sure if they follow anymore. But I know that they like that you should have had a like a other than playing poker. You need to write a book or you need to do some other. There were like some back
Yeah,
when I
it's
was.
like being a good steward of the game of poker. Of course,
Yeah,
longevity in the game, playing high stakes was one of them.
yeah,
Even though it's not in the rules, it seems to be a rule that you need to have a bracelet or two. Um,
right.
you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of gray area that sometimes are applied and sometimes not applied. And, it just, for me, I've made this suggestion. It needs to be no longer owned by any company having to do with poker. Like, it needs to be a private, not a private, but a charity organization, have a standalone museum, not in any casino that hosts the World Series. Just a standalone storefront in Vegas that we can go to this museum and people like you, bracelet winners like you, loan out some of your memorabilia that goes into the museum for 6 months or a year so that poker players can go there and visit the Hall of Fame and see some of your memorabilia as well as other players' memorabilia that is on loan to that museum. And hopefully have a board that puts rules into place, go by the rules, and just take out any gray area. The appearance is not very good right now. It's just
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, and it's until it becomes a real thing. It's kind of not that.
right,
You know, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's not a real thing.
right.
Uh,
So
but
fingers crossed that my dream comes true one day. I hope somebody can pull it off. All right, I'm going to move this train down the track. I'm going to switch gears for a minute. I'm going to ask you, what is the most times you rebought into a live tournament?
three, probably
Okay.
three.
And
Yeah.
the reason why I ask you this question is recently here in Spaces, we've had several discussions about rebuys. And it really had to do with a friend of mine who was in Biloxi in February, and he rebought into a $400 tournament uh, 36 times.
Wow.
And so and some of the operators that have visit with us here in Spaces don't seem to think that, other players have a problem with that. So if I said to you, um, the poker world is putting a new rule into place and we want your input.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to limit the number of rebuys into all tournaments in the world. How many rebuys do you think players should be allowed?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't. That's a good question because obviously the more that guy really helped the winner out when he bought in 36 times
Right,
or how many times. Um, I like the idea of having some, like, the main event is one buy-in. I like that because
right.
it wouldn't be the main event otherwise if you allowed multiple buy-ins. So I think I kind of like the idea of uh, having unlimited rebuys for some tournaments and other tournaments where it's limited rebuys. I do think the tournament plays differently, and so that way you can get into a tournament with no rebuys, and you can get into a tournament with as many rebuys as you want. Uh, because I do think you have to play it differently if there's multiple rebuys.
Do you,
So that way you get kind of
right,
you get what you want, right? And if it's multiple rebuys or unlimited rebuys, you might not want to play in that tournament,
right.
or you might want to because you know that people are going to play pretty aggressively and pretty crazily, and that's part of the skill is understanding who's going to play that way and who's not. So I don't really know if I would make a rule like that.
So, in your years of experience at a poker table, are, in your opinion, do you think there are that many people that rebuy more than 6 times to a tournament?
No, no, there are some. I
Right.
know
Of
some.
course. Of
I know
course.
some, but
I do too.
but there aren't that many that would buy in more than 6 times. A lot of, first of all, people, it's the pros or the guys that think they're pros that
Right.
specialize in the smaller tournaments, the $1,000 buy-ins, those that just think they're going to try to accumulate a lot of chips, which, I'm of and I might be wrong on this because I don't play no limit anymore, but I'm of the opinion to try to play your best you can and try to get as many chips as you can without rebuying,
Right.
right?
I'm of that mindset as well. And for me, what do you think in that $400 tournament? This guy is going, and the reason why he was rebuying is he would go in all in every hand.
Right, right. Well, and that's fine, and here's the thing.
What do you
I
think
never
of that experience, though? My question was, what do you think of that experience for the other players at that table? What if somebody has one bullet and one bullet only for that tournament and they're stuck at that table with that guy?
Yeah. Well, I think the idea is, first of all, he's probably going to redraw and not be stuck at that table with that guy because he's going to have to rebuy and get shuffled into a different table. Number one, but number two, that's why I say you have different tournaments where there's maybe a limit on two rebuys, and then there's an unlimited rebuy tournament. And if you don't like that kind of a thing, you don't play that tournament because I don't want to discourage people from playing poorly, right? And
Right.
so that's the one thing I hear when people leave. They go, "Man, I can't beat those players. They play so bad." Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? You might not be able to beat them in the short term because they're willing to go all in and they have a lot more money than you. But that's a game you want to get into, and it might be short term very bad for you. But but at the same time, if someone's willing to do that, that's fine because he's not going to be at the table for very long, right?
Well,
So,
I'm going to tell you that he ended up at one table. I want to say that he stayed at the one table for 6 or 10 rebuys.
well, then the tournament was done wrong,
Okay. And
right?
so now all those chips are dumping on one table too, right? I mean, it just, when you really stop to think about it, you're like, wow, that table really had the proportion of chips was like, compared to the other tables, was out of control, right? And I mean, there's so much to consider. And for me, I'm like, what's wrong with just limiting it to 5 or 6 rebuys?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's good to have different options for everyone. And if you don't like that kind of thing, then you don't play in an unlimited rebuy tournament because that might be what you get up against. And it seems unfair, but it also the knife cuts both ways, right?
Right.
So if you're at that table and you run hot against that guy, but first of all, that's why they shuffle the tables. That's why you rebuy and you don't play at the same table. I
Well,
mean, that's
that's not what happened over there,
well,
unfortunately.
I think that's a mistake on how they're running the tournament because
Absolutely.
number one, if you can rebuy at the same table, you're more likely to go in 36 times than if you get shuffled and now you're at another table and you just have to keep moving tables. You're less likely to do that strategy, right? And you do kind of ruin it for some people, right?
That's
And I know that. So but I kind of like giving people choices, and if they don't like that type of thing, then just don't play in it. But you have to run the tournament right and shuffle those people around to
I
other.
totally agree. And
Yeah.
and the problem is that, our operators are, looking at dollar signs, so they're not doing very many freeze out tournaments anymore. You
Right.
know, they're just not. I think at the World Series we had the freeze out the main event. I'm not sure how many other events were freeze outs besides those. There, if there were five or less, I would be surprised out of 100.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And yeah, but then you got to go register. You're going to get another table. And so then the advantage of the people getting at a table with a guy buying 36 times or 6 times is not there because he's going to be shuffled around. And then
Totally agree.
yeah, and then I think you kind of eliminate or reduce that problem substantially if you run the tournament right.
Well, unfortunately, they messed up in Biloxi, and let me tell you, I was in that tournament and I registered just a few minutes late. And I promise you, I went to sit down, and before my bottom hit the chair, the guy next to me was like, "Did you hear about?" And I was like, "I have no clue what you're talking about." I mean, the news was traveling fast, but
Funny.
Barry just came up here. Let's welcome Barry, and please meet Tom.
Hey, thank you,
You
Sherry.
bet.
Thanks for having me. Tom, pleasure hearing from you, hearing your story. You're definitely an absolute legend when it comes to mixed games.
Thank you, Barry.
I know I'm kind of forgettable, but everyone remembers you who been playing mixed games for the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
I was there. I was there in 2013 when you won both the horse bracelets, the 1500 and the 5000.
Oh, thanks.
And if we go back a little further, at the LAPC in 2010, I won my first LAPC
Nice.
Remington, and you finished ninth in that tournament. 3 days later, you played the limit event and you finished sixth in Miami. John won that one, if you recall, 15 years ago.
Wow, that's awesome. Great memory.
I love,
No, the Hendon mob is my memory now. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I
Are you,
love that,
you
Barry.
still playing a lot, Barry?
Yeah, I go down to the series every chance, pretty much every year probably since 2010. And I play locally in New York, Atlantic City, Borgata. When they have their series, I go down to the Hard Rock in Florida. I play a lot of those events, every Thanksgiving for sure.
Nice.
Try to get down once or twice a year. But yeah, still playing.
Yeah, good. Good. It's fun.
You have any questions, Barry?
No, I'm good. Just enjoy listening.
Awesome. Glad to have you, Barry, as
Thank you, Barry.
always. ASG, do you have any questions?
You said I forget how many games was in that mix. You played much Dramaha?
Yeah, I love Dramaha. Both Deuce to Seven Dramaha and High. I really like that game a lot.
Yeah. I play that only when I'm in Vegas. I think. Yes, but and then I guess there has been a lot of controversy surrounding the Player of the Year recently. So I guess one, how much do you think it should be geared towards wins versus final tables or second places, third places, etc. And then yeah, actually you can answer that one first.
Yeah, so it seems like they've changed the formula over the years, and it's pretty hard to believe that a guy who wins the main event and the and the and the 50K event doesn't win Player of the Year. But maybe there's a way to do it where and the guy who won three bracelets didn't win.
No, he didn't.
And I think if those two things can happen and they don't become player of the year, I feel like something's wrong. And maybe the best thing to do is to look at the number of bracelets won and have that be the quintessential player of the year, because that's really what everybody's going out there for, is to win bracelets. And then if there's a tie, then have some formula that breaks the tie. But that seems to me to be a fairer way to do it. Uh, and I would have, I don't know what Sean Deeb did. I didn't really pay that much attention to it, but it seems really hard to believe to beat win the main event and win the win the
50K.
50K and not be player of the year unless someone who won 3 bracelets did it, and so maybe the formulas are messed up to the point where I don't know. I just that seems hard to believe that one of those two people didn't win.
It is hard to believe. And, we've been talking about the Play of the Year points schedule for the last couple of years here in Spaces. And every year we're like, the formula isn't working. Like, again, this year, we don't think the formula is working. And it's no shade on Sean Deeb. He went by the rules and
Yeah.
he won it fair and square. And congratulations to him for sure. But I'm of the like-mindedness of you and many others that bracelets should be carrying some weight, and you win 3 of them or you win 2 of them of such big events as the main event and the 50K, it needs to be weighted differently, or I don't think that formula is correct.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not slighting Sean, because I know
Of
that
course.
Sean was trying to win Player of the Year, and he was using the formula, right?
Of course.
So good for him for figuring it out and doing it that way. For some reason, I thought someone said he missed the main event so he could try to win Player of the Year or something, and uh, good for him. But it's probably wrong if somebody wins if the only person to win 3 bracelets doesn't win it. There's something wrong. And then
Right.
if and then if that guy had only won 2, then it would be pretty hard not to give it to
Michael.
the Grinder,
Yep.
But in 2013, they had changed the rules to where they included the Asia WSOP in the deal. That year, I won 2 bracelets and cashed in 7, and I
Wow.
think it was the only one to win 2 bracelets that year. And but Daniel had won a bracelet over in Asia, where my understanding is the fields were much smaller, and I didn't know. I don't think it was well publicized that they were including the Asia trip first, and so a lot of people. I made not a stink, but I said, hey, I think that's a bad idea, because if you're people will go to Asia if they're competing for Player of the Year, but they're not going to start out in Asia, right?
Right.
And go play over there. A lot of people aren't, and so it should have been rotated where you start out in Vegas, and then you go to Europe, and then you go to Asia to play in those WSOPs over there, and that can be part of the Player of the Year. But I don't even know. Did they do that this year? Did they include Asia and
Nope.
Europe?
Nope. Just the World Series of Poker. But now they include online, a certain amount of online events.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and all those. What's unfortunate, I think, at least the last time I looked at that online schedule, which I haven't played any online events for the WSOP, but that schedule is all no limit hold'em, which I think is, if you're going to do online events, you might as well have some of the mixed games in there as well, because it favors the no limit hold'em.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the online event should count toward the Player of the Year. I'm sorry, I just don't. Maybe there should be an online Player of the Year, and they should look at their stats for the whole year and award an online Player of the Year.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Because I feel like people that are at home grinding all year long, playing thousands of tournaments, that should be recognized in its own category, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Barry. Go ahead, Barry. You got your hand up, buddy. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's all a fucking scam. I'm not as nice as you. Uh, the, he who has the king's ear is truly the king. So they get together, they get in the huddle, they change the fucking rules, and next thing you know, he doesn't have to do anything that spectacular, and he's winning Player of the Year. So you can't take away from that guy who won 3 bracelets and Mizrachi for what he did. So
Agree.
it's a shame.
Yeah, it's it needs to be revamped for sure because that shouldn't be the result. I don't think. I mean, it based upon the rules, it was the result, but and he didn't do anything wrong. But I mean, a guy that wins 3 bracelets when no one else does, that's hard to do.
Very hard to do.
And
Like, geez, go ahead, ASG.
yeah, just to say he had a bracelet, a 3 seconds, and a third, and 5 final tables total.
Yeah, so they were all those.
And
Yeah, bracelet, 3 seconds and a third. That's pretty impressive.
And the guy who, and then Benny, who won 3 bracelets, I believe, didn't really. I know he didn't have any final tables beyond that. I'm not sure if he had any cashes beyond that. And then, so I guess that kind of leads into the second question where you kind of mentioned it, but like the 50K, Deeb also was like, I think at one point kind of arguing, I think in an interview I saw where he said, the PLO tournament that he won had more people, was a higher amount for first place. I think he won like 2 million or 3 million, and that the PLO players are more experts in PLO than the people who play in the PPC. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that, on like, if the PPC is really, that should be considered the most prestigious or whatever bracelet.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know if I would agree with him on the PLO versus the PPC. If you look around and see who entered the PPC, most of those guys I've played a lot of mixed games, like high stakes mixed games with. There's not a I mean, I'm sure there's a few in there, and I'm sure there's a few in the pot limit Omaha as well, but um, I don't know. That's I mean I've played in that twice, and I normally don't like to play that big a buy-in unless I'm having a good year, and but I've played in it twice, and the players in it are, I mean, there's a lot of bracelets in that field, and a lot of people that have done well in cash games, and so I don't know if I agree with that comment. But what was the buy-in for the event that Deeb won? Was it 25,000?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, I don't know that.
ASG, I'm sure, is typing as
It
we
was
speak.
I just checked. It was 100K. Anyone? It was 100K for 3 million.
Yeah, and so I have kind of some bones to pick about those types of events because so many of them, it'd be nice if there was a stat on how much money each one of these people put up of their own, because these events have gotten, I almost feel like there should be a weighting of these events where if you put up $1 million and there's 80 people in the field, none of them, well, I'm sure there's a few, but none of them put up their own money, right? So now you actually, it would be kind of an interesting stat to see how much of your own money is put up and how much you won, right? Because if you're getting people to put you in these events, then you're kind of playing an inflated game, right? It's like saying I normally play 400, 800, but I had somebody put me in a 4,000, 8,000 game and gave me 10%. Then I'm playing for the same amount, you know? And so it's I don't know, I just feel like these entry fees have gotten so inflated, and none of the poker players really can afford to put themselves in.
Right.
So then you get backers, and then I don't. The whole idea of it is kind of silly to me. It excludes people that can't, that don't have backers, and but anyway, that's just I don't know. I think it's kind of it'd be fun to see how profitable people are. Maybe you base the player of the year on how profitable they are based upon the entry fees that they put in.
Oh, interesting. Boy, they would be kicking and screaming about giving us numbers.
Right. Yeah, of course. But there, how many people are playing these $100,000 buy-ins and putting up $100,000? Very few people that don't have some sort of people taking pieces of them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So I don't know, $100,000 buy-in. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of great players, but how many players played that event? I don't know.
It was more than the PPC. That was kind of his point. I didn't know it was over 100, and I want to say around 120 or something.
Yeah, I think it would be better just to have I like the idea of we're playing for bracelets. Whoever wins the most bracelets wins Player of the Year. Period.
And then
That
something for tiebreakers.
Yeah, something for a tiebreaker that makes sense.
Right.
Right. Number of people beat, or times the value of the tournament times some other thing. But yeah, I just think it's hard to argue when a guy wins 3 bracelets that he doesn't win Player of the Year. The only time you could argue it is when Grinder wins the 2 events he won. That's the only time that we would ever have this discussion, and that'll never happen again in our lives. No one will ever win that and the main event again, ever.
Oh, interesting. You heard it here. We're going to mark that tape.
Yeah, mark it down. It's not ever going to happen again. It's too hard to do.
Okay, I'm bringing SW up. Go ahead, SW. Please meet Tom Schneider.
Good evening, everybody. Tom, pleasure to meet you. How you doing?
You too, SW.
Yeah, I have to wholeheartedly disagree with you on one point, Tom.
Okay.
So whoever wins the most bracelets should win Player of the Year. I disagree, because if you look at what Mizrachi did, right, in those type of fields with that type of talent, and then the main, which is just a complete, for lack of a better term, shit show. To win both of those bracelets, that will probably never happen again. And then let's say hypothetically Glazer won 3 bracelets in 3 events that had like a 200 to 300 person field. I'd argue that it's much more difficult to do what Mizrachi did than it is to do what Glazer did. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced and there's a little bit more complexity there.
Oh, I agree. It's more complex. What I was saying though is that I think if every year you went back and gave it to the person who won the most bracelets, in general, it would be hard to argue. Other than remember I said other than this year when Mizrachi did what he did, but that'll never happen again. So like if you gave
I didn't hear that. Yeah, that's fair.
Historically, if you gave the Player of the Year to the most bracelets, you wouldn't have an argument like you would this year. This would be the only year where you'd go, yeah, but Mizrachi did this, right? That this is the only year where you'd probably have an argument with if it was just number of bracelets. Like Jeff Lissandro won 3 bracelets one year. He won Player of the Year, and other people had good years as well. But if someone wins 3 and no one else wins 3, generally it's going to be hard to argue against that, especially if that's the rule you make, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
it's a good argument. It's a good debate.
Well, and I'm just going to let Tom know, because it's his first time in a space. When people are coming up, there is a bit of a time lapse, so they don't hear us talking. So SW is probably trying to come up to speak, so he didn't hear you. Just an FYI.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. That's the only thing that was my caveat, is that this is the only year probably where you could make an argument that what Mizrachi did was better than 3 bracelets, and I would argue that that's probably true. But if the rule was, the most bracelets, then it would be pretty easy to say, hey, the guy won 3 bracelets, and it'd be hard to argue that Mizrachi should win it because of the rule. But yeah, I mean, like I think two people did something that's really hard to do. Not saying that what Sean Deeb did isn't hard to do as well, but it's at least it's fun to talk about.
Right on. Go ahead, ASG.
Yeah, just quickly,
go ahead.
Sherry, and I'll pass it to ASG. I just wanted to add one thing to Barry's point earlier. I mean, let's be honest, the WSOP Hall of Fame is so corrupted. I mean, you got a few you got a few guys that are literally dictating who gets in, what transpires, what happens. So, I mean, that thing should be revamped. We've spoken about that at length over the years, but yeah, I agree with Barry there. It's like these people are making executive decisions on who gets in, and it's solely based off the WSOP, right? It's not based off any other tours. So
well, and it's really, it appears to be so biased. I mean, the fact that they just jumped over every rule that they themselves put into place to induct someone because they wanted them to be inducted, it just speaks volumes of, it's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like some of the people that I kind of had fun playing with and enjoyed their character, like Devilfish is a guy that I don't know if he's ever been nominated, but he actually I think was great for poker, um, and like at least the lore of poker. And there's a few others I can't that don't come to mind right now, but
Well, let me
that's.
ask you, Tom,
Oh, there he is.
because
There he is. He's in there. He is in there. I just was looking. He did make it in.
well,
So
and I'm going
2000.
to ask you because I did try to research that earlier today and yesterday. Have you been nominated before?
No, no.
Interesting.
When I won my fourth bracelet, there were only 23 people that had more bracelets than me.
Wow.
But I'm not as prominent in poker anymore, and haven't had much success lately. So, but yeah, thanks for even asking the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to me, you're just another testimonial as to why we need to be nominating more than one per year. Because there are certainly many very deserving players, and one per year is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. It probably by doing one per year, it probably creates the thing that people are upset about, which is the kind of the people talking or kind of more political, right? If there were more inductees, it would be less political.
Yes. All right, ASG, go ahead, buddy. You were waiting.
Oh yeah, and I was just going to say, I know Tom loves mixed games, but my one counter to most bracelets is that uh, when Benny won his three bracelets, Sean in that with that $3 million PLO win won more money than he won three times more money than Glazer won in all of his events combined. So, and that also relates to the field sizes as well as of those events. Is that like I think if you went by most bracelets, then it would be even more geared towards just trying to win some small field mixed game events. But
Right, right. And then I don't know which ones he won. How many? Which ones did Benny Glazer win?
give me a second to re-look that up because it's been a while.
Thank you, ASG.
But Tom, to your point earlier, while ASU was looking that up, I mean, when I got into poker 20 plus years ago, I saw these people's earnings on Hendon, and they weren't as out of control as they are now. But when you think about it, it's like you look at these people as like rock stars. At least I did back then when I was in my early 20s, and like, oh my God, look at all this money they're winning. But in reality, they're really not. Like you said, most of these people are staked. Most of these people's ROI on the money they won. I even heard the controversial what's his name, Justin Bonomo, say he probably has like a 2% edge in high rollers, right? So if you're winning 50 million or you're cashing for 50 million, you're really what, netting a few $1,000,000. I think it to win the player of the year, you should probably be profitable. I think realistically you could win two bracelets, win player of the year, and not be profitable. What are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
yeah, I think Daniel had that one year, right? Didn't he win one? He won one event or won two events or one. It was like last year or the year before where he had won an event but was still buried,
Yes.
right?
Many years actually.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean like the idea of being profitable should be taken into account, I think, for player of the year because what's happened is it's turned into there's just probably when you think about it, there's probably 50 to 100 players that could actually win player of the year based upon how many events they're willing to play, how much money they're willing to spend, whether they have backers or not. And so, like, I don't think I could win player of the year again because I'm not going to go up there and play, rebuy three times in every event, including some of the limit events. And, I'm just not going to do that. And some of these people don't care whether they win money or not. They care whether they win the player of the year. And so
Yeah.
that's to your point. And I kind of would like some sort of profitability measure, right, for player of the year, because it's kind of
Oh,
like who has the most money to spend. And if you can play in $1 million event, did they have $1 million event this year?
Yeah.
mm,
Oh, a
I don't
million?
think
No,
so.
250,000.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe a 500.
So like that's an
Definitely
event that so many people can't play in, and so that's how many players are going to play. How many people do they have in a $250,000 event? 100. But then you look at the money they win, and I think it's more about the number of players that you're beating, right? If you beat 3 fields of 1,100 or 1,200 players, granted, some of them are not going to be any good, but you
Sure.
still have the regular people that are good players that aren't that are playing in those, and you got to beat them too. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting situation for sure. Like Benny Glazer won the mixed limit triple draw, 2,500. So there were probably 400 players there. He won the 1,500 Omaha 8 or better mix. There was probably 1,100 players in that. And then he won the $100,000 plus plus 500 mixed games SHRB. Wait a minute, that's not. I don't know if
Uh,
No,
that's not
that's
he
W.
won the six-handed dealer's choice.
He won the 1,500 dealer's choice, and they probably had 400 or 500 players in that.
So it was 600 in the dealer's choice. Oops, clicked on the wrong thing. 1,200 in the OE, and another 460 in the triple draw.
Looks like he had 11 cashes in the WSOP.
wow. And
Yeah.
he wasn't the player of the year. It's in mind
Yeah,
boggling.
because outside of those 3, he 16th was his highest finish after that. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
But that's
crazy.
hard. It's weird. Some years when I go there and I'm doing well, I cash in a lot of events, and I'm like, how come my friends aren't cashing? And then what are they doing wrong? And then, the last couple of years, I probably played 20 events 2 years ago and didn't cash in one of them. And I'm going, how are they cashing? How are people actually bagging chips in these things? It's just kind of a weird, you never know, how you're going to run at the World Series. And
Well, and I think part of it is they're buying their way there by, 5, 6 buy-ins, Tom.
yeah, and that's kind of what the World Series has turned into.
It's
So, like I
crazy.
said, I think it's funny because there literally is probably 100 players that could win Player of the Year. And that's
Yeah, and even to go off of that, Scott Severs said last year when he won 3 bracelets that he had to get that 6th place finish in the 25K horse in order to win Player of the Year.
And
yeah, wow.
and don't forget
Yeah,
the summer before that, a guy was competing and he went and played online real quick and won a tournament or got placed high in an online tournament, and he snuck in there and got player of the year.
yeah. I kind of like your idea of having it be the live Player of the Year and the online Player of the Year.
I just
That
think
way,
that they're deserving. Honestly, I think the online players are very deserving of having their own player of the year based on their results for the whole year.
yeah, I don't know if the World Series has events all year long though. Do they?
I don't know.
Yeah, they do during the. The same way the circuit runs all year. They have ring events all year,
Oh, I
and
got
then
you.
some scattered bracelet events.
I got you.
And then the only difference between a ring and a bracelet event online is like the buy-in size.
Thank
I got
you.
But that's the comical part, ASG. We're talking about player of the year when you're playing over the course of 3 months in a field where there's so much nuance. Like people are trying to get every edge they can. It's kind of silly,
Yeah, it's player of the month.
Yeah.
Player of the summer. Player of
Yeah.
the summer. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys, I'm going to pivot us for a minute. Um, the World Series of Poker this year had a few controversies, and none of those controversies stole more of the spotlight, I don't think, in my opinion, of the WSOP than that WPT Golden Ticket competition. Um, Are you familiar with what I'm talking about, Tom?
I think that I am, and I guess I understand that they actually did have an agreement to do that, and they actually told people that they had an agreement to do that. Is my understanding.
And do you think that a competing, you've been a CFO, a competing company should be doing such a competition to a competitor?
That I haven't really given much thought to, but I do. I mean, I guess if you look at it this way, they're rewarding people for their results in another competition. So, in other words, they're promoting them, which I guess isn't a bad thing. I do think it's kind of unusual that it happened that the two players, just happened to be at that it just happened to be the right two players at that table that made first and second. You know, I can see it both ways because there's no there's no rule against playing bad heads up, right?
Right,
And so if there's a financial advantage, and let's keep in mind we're all putting our own money up, right?
right.
And we're all trying to get edges, and we're all trying to get value out of things, and nobody pays us anything for the TV rights or any of that. Meanwhile, baseball players and all these other people are paid all this money to compete in their sport, and yet we're paying our own money to compete in a sport that other people are making money off of us. So the idea that two people said, hey, if we can make extra money if we do it this way, I kind of I at first I didn't like it at all, but considering that they didn't harm any other people, uh, I don't really feel that bad about it.
Is it good for the game?
I guess it can be, and it creates discussion and controversy, which is always good. I don't care what you write about me in the paper, just make sure you spell my name right. That's kind of the old adage.
Right.
And so it did create a lot of buzz about the poker world. And like I said, they didn't cheat anybody out of any money.
Was it fair to the WSOP to steal the limelight?
Um, well, the WSOP doesn't allow chops, right?
Right,
So that's another rule where, okay, you don't allow chops, but it's my money, right? And so
right,
that's kind of also a thing where I think a lot of people would argue that you could argue that there is some skill to chopping, right? And you could argue that, hey, it's my money. Why are you telling me what I can and can't do with my money, right? And so um, I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about it, but I also have the idea that poker players are there to maximize value. And
right.
if I can maximize my value by letting you win this tournament, um, it tells you that the money to those people is more important than the bracelet, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
And meanwhile,
A good thing because they didn't get the bracelet.
oh, they didn't get the bracelet.
No,
Well, and he probably didn't care, right?
probably
They
not.
each got another 500,000 or some number like that. Uh,
And they've been banned now
oh, they've been banned from the WSOP?
and from Nevada.
No,
Really?
not from Nevada. They've been banned from Caesar's properties.
I thought the Gaming Commission put a ban on Nevada for them.
I'm pretty sure they were playing in the uh, the WPT.
Thank you.
They
I
were
would
playing
think
at the
that
Venetian. Yeah, we saw the picture.
Sherry, you should be able to make any deal you want to make heads up, right? And there's
Okay,
a lot more. There's a lot more to it
okay, but
because
first of all, I'm just going to say this: the WSOP prize pool for that tournament, and you wanting to make a deal about that, has nothing to do with a deal for the WPT money.
what
Those
are you
are
talking
two
about? If
separate
I
issues.
If I go to Tom and I say, Tom, if I win this tournament, I'm getting $1 million. You have a pretty substantial chip lead. Let's make a side deal. If I win, I'll give you $500,000. That's between us, right? And WPT did that for a reason. If you go back a few years prior to that, WPT announced their winter series in December, and then Negreanu and WSOP just right off the back of that announced the Bahamas WSOP events. So they shit on them and they try to take market share from them. WPT did this very calculatedly. Like they knew what they were doing,
Okay,
right? They knew this would probably happen. So,
just so that
but
you
again,
know,
hold on, let me finish.
let me just say something in my own defense. It sounds like I agree with you. I have said all summer long that WPT was trolling the hell out of the WSOP because of the whole Bahamas thing. I totally agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. But my point is, yeah, I agree. But my point is, Sherry, like, who are they to dictate? What me and Tom, if I'm heads up with Barry or Tom or whomever, who are they to dictate what we do behind the scenes? You can always make a backdoor deal.
Okay, but it
It's not.
wasn't
There's
about.
nothing.
But it
There's
wasn't
nothing
about
illegal about
that,
that.
Esther. It wasn't about that. It was about the chip dumping.
What do you call?
It
So
was
okay.
about the
So
chip dumping. That's where
if
the
we're
problem came in.
Sherry, what do you mean? But if we're heads up, and I say like Punit Pansari was heads up with what's his name, Bryn Kenny, right? And they made a deal. So Bryn played a lot differently than he would have prior to that. He won 21 million. I think Punit won 16 million. So at the end of the day, you could technically call that chip dumping as well. I feel like if you're making a deal and you're just dumping chips after you've already made the deal heads up, you're not impacting the integrity of the game. You're not hurting anybody. I think it's a reasonable thing to do from a financial standpoint. And I don't think you're damaging the integrity of the game, but the way WSOP positioned it, I think was pretty egregious. That's my take.
Well, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't necessarily agree with you. But I will say that the Gaming Commission got involved and saw it differently. So
Well, the
go
gaming
ahead,
I
ASG.
just
the
wanted to
gaming
say that
commission.
Savage took a picture of them at the Venetian, both players, at the
Thank you,
WPT,
ASG.
and
Thank you.
further follow up because this just broke today. James Carroll will be a shooting star, so there's a
I
$2,500
saw
bounty on
that.
his head
I
if you
saw
beat
that.
him at the Bay 101.
I saw that. We're going to get back to Tom because I promised him he could get to his plans this evening. So, Tom, do you want to try the guitar or skip it this
I
time?
don't know. Let's see if you guys can hear it. Let's see, because sometimes you can't.
Yeah, I think I could hear it a little.
Can you hear that?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
You can, huh?
Yep.
Cool. Uh, uh. You know me, I'm just like you. We work, we sleep, we hope. We laugh now till we cry. 'Cause who's the punchline of the joke? We had a dream, an American dream. We're not the only ones. Crops to plant and roads to build and battles to be won. Anyway, there's a little bit.
Thank
Can you
you
hear
for
that?
that. Yes, we could hear
Yeah.
that. I appreciate you. And where's your next gig?
I play a lot of country clubs, and then I also play this place called Horse and Hide quite a bit out here in Phoenix. It's a country bar, and but yeah, I play the Elks Club, which is actually a lot of fun. And but I play a lot of country clubs, and I also do singer-songwriter nights as well, where I play either by myself or with another friend of mine, where we play all of our original songs, and it's kind of like the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. It's a lot of fun.
I love it.
Yeah,
Good for you, Tom.
yeah,
Finding a passion and capitalizing on it for joy is always a good thing.
yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I'm going to go around the horn to see if any of our panelists have any last questions, and then we're going to let you off the hook. How's that
Well, that's
sound?
perfect.
All right, perfect. ASG, go ahead, buddy.
No, I just yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you around the mixed game scene. I also enjoy it on occasion. But yeah,
Perfect. Make sure you come up and say hi.
Love that. Go ahead, Barry. He may be at a game. Barry, you there, buddy? Any final questions, comments?
Nah, I'm good. Good job, Sherry.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. SW.
Yeah, sure. I got a couple comments. Excellent space. Probably one of the most enjoyable I've been in a long time. Tom, you're a legendary person. I think you're a smart guy, a bright guy, and really enjoyed listening to you. And we'll love to hear you sing live someday,
All
buddy.
right. Thanks, SW. Let me know when you come to Phoenix.
Oh yeah, that was going to
Absolutely.
be the question. Do you ever tour? Like, do you ever like go to open mics or anything like that?
I used to go to open mics when I started. I started playing guitar at 52, so I would go to open mics just to get used to getting behind the mic and playing. And now I'll go to support a few of my friends that hold open mics. I don't play a lot at them, but I'll go to support and maybe play once in a while. Mostly have gigs, so I probably during the season I'll play 8 to 10 times a month.
Love
Yeah.
that. Thank you guys so much. I just want to remind everybody, I'll be in Malta October 29th through November the 3rd. I'll be hosting an event on Halloween night. Bring your costume and meet me in Malta. Tom, it's been a delight as always. I appreciate your time and joining us this evening, and look forward to it maybe again
Yeah,
sometime.
thanks for having me, Sherry. I appreciate it. It's always fun to see you.
You too, buddy.
All right.
Take
All right.
care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.